Hello again. Yeah, as you can probably tell, I'm inside my car. I've had to take shelter because, someone has turned the Tyneside wind machine to the max this morning, so it didn't really lend itself to wandering up and down outside there. I'm told that sound quality is everything in these videos, so this is for your benefit that I've jumped inside the car as Damien Spellman just pulls away over my shoulder there. Of Press Association, Northeast stalwart Damien. We've been around the world together, really, covering Ireland over the years. Good guy. Good reporter as well. I could tell you a nice story about the day we missed a flight coming out of Charles de Gaulle. I say missed a flight, I didn't bust a gut to get through the airport. I thought another night in Paris would have been very nice. As it turns out, they put us on a roundabout in a hotel, not in a hotel really, on a roundabout outside the airport. But yeah, the glamour of the job. So anyway, I'm distracted, but so blowing a gale here. So I've jumped inside the car in the little barn there behind me. I think it was that windy that Newcastle have just done their initial warm-up routine in there, and just around the corner on the pitches there, they're currently preparing for tomorrow's game at Leeds. And I've just emerged from Eddie Howe's pre-match, tomorrow's game at home at Leeds, and I've just emerged from Eddie Howe's pre-match press conference. In the description below this, there's a link to a story of how Eddie is warning that Newcastle have got to be mindful of not handcuffing themselves ahead of the summer window. And by that he meant, overspending in January. He did stress that it is a very difficult market to manoeuvre in. And, all the warning, all the word coming back is of warnings of not expecting Newcastle to do too much in this window. But, and this is the but, I think, I wrote a story on Wednesday about John Joe Shelby's contract situation and how he's now got to start 2 more games to trigger that 12-month extension. And within that was detail about how Shelby's injury, he's out for up to 8 weeks, of course, has caused a rethink in terms of central midfield emerging as an absolute priority position. That question was put to Eddie Howe twice today, and he didn't deny it. Listen, he when it comes to transfers, Eddie does sit on that proverbial fence, but he did say, we are reevaluating the situation internally. And I just think as well, it's simply a numbers game. Newcastle play with 3 central midfielders right now. They've got 5 on the books. One of them, John Joe Shelby, is out injured until the end of February. One of them, Joe Linton, is currently playing tremendously well on the left wing, and you wouldn't move him. So the 3 in the middle at the moment, Bruno, Guimaraes, Joe Willock and Sean Longstaff, are in there by default. I don't say that because they're not playing well. They're playing tremendously well. But, if one of those goes down, who comes in? Are you having to bring Joe Linton back into the midfield or shift Elliot Anderson in there? Or, if you've got a couple of injuries, does even Sven Botman or Fabian Scharf to go up into a central midfield role? So it makes sense that it is a priority. The name we're hearing back is Yuri Tielemans, the Leicester City midfielder, long-term admirers, I'd say, on Newcastle are of Tielemans. And given there's only 6 months to run in his deal down at Leicester, I would be amazed if Newcastle didn't test Leicester's resolve within the next couple of weeks when it comes to Tielemans. Whether they're willing to sell or not, or whether they look at their situation and think, we need him for the next 6 months regardless, given where they are on the table, I don't know. In a strange way, I do think Leicester's improvement in form heading into the World Cup break, which has saw them climb clear of trouble, probably does aid the cause in terms of getting Tielemans out of Leicester. So we'll have to wait and see on that. But Eddie did speak about John Joe as well, and admitted that he's had to have a little chat with him this week because, we spoke with John Joe in the summer out in Austria, and he was in tremendous nick. I think I wrote this in the time in the Daily Mail. We did an interview with him, and he'd spent all summer in Turkey working with a personal trainer, and he'd come back, and he was the one player during pre-season when you watched those games, he really stood out as to how sharp he was. Maybe on reflection, he was too sharp. Maybe sometimes when you get to his age, 30, 31, your body just needs to rest. And he's had awful luck with injuries. He missed the first couple of months with a hamstring problem. He's only just come back, and he's now got a calf complaint. So he's still, the story in the Daily Mail on Wednesday was he still needs to start 2 more matches to trigger a 12-month extension, which has put his future in some doubt, really. Perhaps at boardroom level, there will be a decision to make as to whether that would be a prudent pursuit. I don't know. I think Eddie is a good enough man and a good enough manager and a good enough guy so that if he does need John Joe, he will play him. I don't think he will want to be swayed by that sort of influence. So I think he's had a chat with him this week, and he said, John Joe feels better about his future after that. That is one to watch, but nonetheless, that precarious nature of that contract situation, and we've seen it so many times at different clubs over the years, haven't we, whereby players get towards the end of a deal and a certain amount of appearances triggers an extension that maybe the club don't want. We'll have to wait and see, but There's no doubting John Joe Shelvey's quality when fully fit. And I've always said over the years that a Newcastle team with a fully fit John Joe Shelvey in it always invariably performs better. So yeah, hopefully for his sake, because I do like him, I hope he is back sooner rather than later. Other little updates to emerge from the press conference now. Alexander Isak and Callum Wilson. Callum Wilson trained yesterday, and I think he'll be in the squad for Saturday. It home Leeds, no doubt about that. Eddie, as ever, with injuries, isn't massively committal, doesn't want to give too much away, but I think if Callum trained yesterday and little bits you hear, and I think he'll be fine. The question is, does he keep Chris Wood in the starting 11 against his former club? He's playing very well, and, you know, save Wilson for perhaps the final 30 minutes or so. I think that is perhaps a likelihood. And the other update, every week we ask the same question, Alexander Isak. Now, Eddie said he's hopeful of Isak featuring in January, to which one Twitter users just replied to me, that probably means mid-February. I think supporters like us journalists are getting used to trying to decode Eddie Howe's meanings when it comes to fitness. From what I understand on Isak, I think they are just taking the time. You know, the nature of that injury, a torn thigh muscle, and to suffer the same injury twice, I think you can't bring someone back too soon from that, especially when, you know, Chris Wood is doing well. You know, Callum Wilson his absence wasn't serious, it was just a sort of a minor illness. So I think there is an element of caution there with Isak. But saying that, we had expected to see him perhaps involved in those cup games next week, Sheffield Wednesday, or even Leicester beyond that. Might have been a good opportunity. From what we're hearing, we don't think that is going to be the case, and it will be later in the month for Isak by the time he is back involved again. Eddie did say he is very close to full training, but, you know, that still isn't full training, and with the nature of injury he's had, you would imagine there would be a decent period of training and testing it out before he is considered. So no, I wouldn't expect to see Alexander Isak imminently, whereas Callum Wilson I do think will be involved on Saturday. So yeah, I just thought I'd bring you a quick little update. As I said in the description below, you know, click on that story, Eddie talking about the difficulties of the January market and how they don't want to be forced to overspend, especially when things are going so well. Really, while he would absolutely like to strengthen, I think he's also mindful of this summer being a big window for Newcastle, especially if they do hang around in the top four, and this is a Champions League summer where you're trying to build a squad which can compete in Europe's premier competitions. So yeah, still a lot of variables. We are, of course, you know, very much in the infancy. We're still one day out from that window kicking in. So yeah, thanks again for watching, guys. Click subscribe, click on the link below to read that story with Eddie Howe at Mail Online. There'll be more Mail Plus, Daily Mail too. But take care, and, you know, thanks for watching this year. I'll be back, one more video. I'll be back tomorrow after Leeds. Okay, thanks again, bye bye.